Justin, I want to talk about generative AI in instructional design and training because there are pros and cons, and there are things that the educational systems really need to pay attention to. It's going to be changing the face of how people learn, and we want it to be a tool to enhance their intelligence, not make them weaker and less effective.
Gen AI is going to have, it already is having impacts throughout every industry, but I really believe that education and training is going to be one of the industries where it's going to have a deeply profound impact, not just on learners and students, but on the design of instructional materials and curriculum and the day-to-day administration within education. And so, of course, a benefit of that is going to be content generation on a much faster and larger scale than what we used to do. And of course, streamlining processes on the administrative side, and then being able to tailor curriculum or training and tutoring specifically to the needs of individual students and how they learn. I think one of the challenges that we're going to see, though, is too much reliance on it, not checking behind it with hallucinations or other things such as that. And then a viewpoint potentially of education losing merit because how much Gen AI is used. And that really depends on the populace and their view of AI generated content.
Mhm. I think one of the most important things for students to be competitive is building up how to properly use these tools to enhance their productivity, but at the same time, building up those soft skills, the human skills, and the ability to speak and interact and handle conflict. So these are things where the educational system still has a place to serve, where they need to be able to learn to think and use these tools and evaluate them.
And that's right. It goes back to what you and I teach in every class that incorporates AI or focuses on AI, that at the end of the day, they're impressive tools, they're useful tools, but they should never be used as the final decision in anything. The subject matter experts should always be the final say. And in instructional design, one of the biggest key points or key factors in creating effective and accurate curriculum is subject matter expert. If I know nothing of aerospace technology, and even if I know how to create and design effective training programs, you're not going to want me to teach students how to build a spaceship or a rocket for SpaceX. However, if I work with Elon Musk or one of his competent staff and or engineers and we together build a curriculum, that's going to be a program that you're going to want to send people to. And so that's one of those cases where a designer and a subject matter expert can expedite a program, creating a program through generated information and cut down on the time it takes to turn around training programs. And so there's a benefit there. And the challenge on that, the other side of the coin, is what happens if universities or colleges or even design companies start relying too much. Then if you don't have a policy or process set in place, a checks and balance on how this is being used, then what I think you're going to start seeing, and you have already seen, especially in some of your private organizations, where content may launch multiple classes, but they're mediocre at best compared to even an outfit organization or a college that has less offerings, but they're quality because they took the time or they had those checks and balances in place. And so the next step there is going to be, once you have the training in place, an instructor who has a class of different students and how they learn, their backgrounds, experiences they've had, whether they're a traditional, non-traditional student, and they have to gauge where each of those students are so they can teach to them, where they can provide some information about the learning style and have lesson plans or tutoring guides or assignments tailored specific to each student. It really touches on equity and accessibility, in which if a student is taught in a way that they best respond to, they're obviously going to have a much higher chance of flourishing and grasping the material to a level of competence than if an instructor is trying to force a triangle and everything through a square hole. So that's another way that Gen AI is really starting to impact education.
And we can teach our students to do it to convert the stuff into their own way of learning. Now, I am more effective at video and hearing audio, so I might take ChatGPT on my phone and ask it to explain it to me. Then I'll go back to the text to verify. So, teaching the students how to use these so that they empower themselves to take the world the way it comes and then use these tools to make it work in their own system. Another important point here is prompt engineering is more effective to a human being that's better at communicating. We've said this over a year ago that often therapists who realize the way you structure language is very important
Mhm.
in working with the client often do better in coming up with prompts than the average person. Well, if you explain to your students, you need to improve your ability to communicate with a system which will also build skills in communicating with other humans. Because if you've got an agent here, you want to explain very clearly what it's to do so it will slowly learn from your habits. So this can be used as an educational tool. And I think our view is don't run from it, learn to integrate it in ways that enhance the
Mhm.
ability to think things through, solve problems, use tools correctly, and build those soft skills up. I'm old enough, Justin, to remember something called slide rules. And when calculators came out, you learned to use the calculator to use the slide rule. Well, why don't you just come up with what they finally realized is let's come up with more complicated systems where using the calculator, you could use it, but you still had to solve even more advanced
Mhm.
problems with the calculator. So it challenged us more. And that's where we are today. The educational system needs to learn how to embrace it properly to enhance the student's skills, not try to block it.
Good. That's a lot of good points right there. And to start out on the creativity side, so most people either fall into one or the other, with some that fall in the middle in an analytical mind or creative. So we have established that there's really kind of camps. There is a third camp when it comes to creativity and analytical skills. You have left brain, right brain. Some people are more creative, some people are more analytical. You do have some that have a good mixture of both, but that does affect how you process information and how you approach different tasks. So Gen AI is one of those things where for individuals who are more creative, something like ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot can take and do more analytical functions to free that person up to be more creative. Or on the other hand, with what you said, with text to video, Dolly, generating images, it can take and generate creative ideas to an extent for someone who's more analytical, and that's inspiration. And so there's innovation that can be used in a classroom on different ways. And it's just like you said, still today, one of the biggest fears of people is public speaking. Now, ChatGPT's 4.0 is really impressive and it doesn't replace a human, but can you imagine a student who is preparing for a speech or wants to enhance their communication skills discussing back and forth with a tool that is pretty comfortable to speak with? It's not the old monotone that some of us grew up with. You can have a very comfortable conversation with it. That could be something that really helps that student increase their ability to speak. And at the same time, again, prompt engineering isn't just through a keyboard. You can enter prompts in using that function, voice. And so for some students, they're still going to be learning the basics of prompt engineering. Personally, I think that we really need to be integrating these tools in elementary level. That way, students, by the time they graduate high school, they're effective users of AI. Now, with that, there is still a lot of educational systems from K through 12 to even university that are really skeptical about using these tools. A lot of discussions come up on plagiarism and how AI plays into things like that. I have had students who've tried to pass off generated work as their own. Some I've been able to tell because I know the writing style, and I've even had some where, sorry, I can't answer that. I'm just AI essentially is written in the front of their paper. They forgot to take it off. And so you really have to approach responsible use and ethical use of AI. And again, teach students that it's not a crutch that they lean on to where they lose their creativity, but it is a tool. And so you mentioned slide rule. I'm old enough to where my first experience in college, we were told we couldn't really bring laptops or phones into the classroom because they're a distraction. And now many colleges and universities require a laptop for you to be able to complete certain classes. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard instructors say, "Do you have your phone? Look that up." And so we've come a long way, and AI, I think, is another thing. But right now, a lot of educators are skeptical of it, and they turn students away from it or using it in the course. But yet you have another camp that encourages it. I'm of that they need to be encouraged how to use it, but use it honestly and responsibly. And so there, we're really training a future workforce because children now, we have no clue what kind of jobs they're going to have by the time they graduate high school. And so that dilemma there is for those of us who design programs and look to the future of work and how we need to prepare students for jobs even 5 years down the road. There's no way we can fathom what kind of programs we need to prepare really even 5 years from now, much less for those students coming up through grade school. And that too is where we really are going to have to lean on AI eventually, because that deep analysis of data and the amount of data that's available to us, really it's going to get to a point, I believe, to where without using these tools, we won't be able to predict what's coming or where we need to go, because we won't really be able to comprehend the amount of data that's going to be available in the near future. And so that's just another level of why we need to go ahead and start integrating it into education to prepare the workforce. Because when it comes time for them to interview, that's really too late. I'm starting to see a lot of job postings where prompt engineering is a requirement. And so, there are a lot of individuals who probably take a weekend warrior class and aren't prepared for the level that the organization needs. Whereas if they were taught in high school or even community college how to become an effective prompt engineer, they could have gained a job even without specific hands-on experience. And so there's so many aspects to why this is important, and that us as educators, we really need to be on top of this, and we really need to be the experts outside of Silicon Valley and where these organizations who are actually developing these systems, we need to be the second level of expert, because if we don't train these students, then I fear that we're really going to have a skill shortage in the near future, and that's something with as much money that's been invested and resources that's been invested into these tools and how ingrained they are into our current economy. We can't afford to have a massive skills gap and a lack of qualified individuals in the direction we're heading.
Absolutely. And just want to say this is something we offer. We offer the consulting, the information, the education as well. I'll make sure in the video below I put your latest article on this, Justin. And this is, we're designing our programs, applying the
Mhm.
principles that we're talking about right here.
Absolutely. And so we're definitely doing our part in training, in the book, Harnessing Artificial Intelligence for Brick and Mortar Businesses, which is really a guide for anyone who wants to begin prompt engineering. And then again, you mentioned the certificate course where we prepare professionals in entering into using these tools. So you take very seriously the mission laid out ahead of us and where we see the economy and the workforce heading.
Absolutely. Great. Well, check out the content below and let's hear your views on it as well. And if you know someone who's interested, we're available both for consulting. We have off the shelf training. We do customized training. We even did a whole day workshop for auctioneers of all things. And that was exciting. They were reluctant at first. And then when they saw it saved them a lot of time, their eyes lit up. And so all types of fields are affected. Like we say, it's not that your job will be taken by AI, but someone with the same skill level as you and understanding AI will probably have a competitive advantage over
Mhm.
you in a job. Absolutely. And I just want to say this is something we offer. We offer the consulting, the information, the education as well. I'll make sure in the video below I put your latest article on this, Justin. And this is we're designing our programs, applying the
Mhm.
principles that we're talking about right here.